So hi everyone, I'm very happy to be here and thanks a lot for the day. So I'm going to present you the work between the LSE and the Social Economics Lab. So main motivation of this paper, I think, would be pretty obvious to everyone here. So I mentioned this happening, and so we need to implement policy to take on that. Okay, and so the thing is, you have like many policies that you could choose to implement to tackle climate change, okay? But people might oppose or support one of those policies. And they might do so for a lot of different reasons. They might lack knowledge about climate policies, about climate change itself. They might lack knowledge about like the effect of the policies on their lifestyle and on their budget, or it can also be concerned about the impact of climate policies, such as the carbon pricing and the economy, and so basically you have a lot of different reasons that people might have to oppose climate policy. And what we're trying to do in this paper is to better understand what are like those motivations. Okay, and so to do so, we run like a large-scale survey over 20 countries. Okay, so you have here the list of countries we surveyed. So here we're talking about a survey of more than 40,000 respondents, and with the principal characteristic that we are covering those developed countries and developing countries. Okay, and so all in all, if you take all those countries together, they are not more like than 72% of global CO2 emissions. Okay, and so one starting point here is that this is some result from the survey. Okay, so here we have what the countries, and we have like what here like two responses to two different questions. And so what we see is that people like all over the globe agree that there needs to be something needs to be done to tackle climate. Okay, so when you ask people if they think that climate change is an important problem, like you have more than 70% like for countries that in each country that think that's an important problem. Like even like in the US, where you can see the issue is lower, you still have like a problem of people that agree with that, and there are governments should something to fight climate change. But the point is, like people may disagree on which policy they want to implement, like which exact policy they want to implement, and like which trade on the table fix. Okay, so first, to explain a bit like what the story is. So what we do is like we go to a commercial service company that you are usually used like for if you want to do like marketing information on a basic market. So those service companies, they have like a big pool of respondents, and they are able like to tackle to reach a lot of different respondents. Okay, and so they're able like to reach also like low-income people as well as high-income people with different rewards. So like if you're like a high-income people, some reward you could have like to enter the survey, like some vouchers or for some plane tickets or stuff like that. So those are like some incentives that are compatible with high-income people. Like for other respondents, you could just get like a few dollars for spending the survey and completing all the answers. Okay. So what we do is like we survey people and we recruit them based on some socioeconomic characteristics, so that they are representative of their national population. So we do so by targeting gender, age, income, region, and urban or rural characteristics. Okay, and so with that we're able to recruit like some representativity across each country. Okay. One thing I want to underline here, that for high-income countries, we're really able to have a samples that are really representative of the national population. For middle-income countries, it's more complicated because we run the survey at the start of the COVID pandemic, so we are not able to do door-to-door surveying. And so you should think of the middle-income countries that are more as representative of the online population. So here we will have younger people and more educated people for this country. Okay? And that's why for the rest of the result, I will split the result by high income and low income countries. The graph I will show. Okay. So what we do? So first, this is like a bit like how the questionnaire looks like. So first we have like some background question, where we able like to target people based on the characteristics of the mentioned before. And then each respondent is drawn randomly to one of those 4 different groups. Okay, so you have first control group where people see no video information and they just go to the rest of the survey. And then we have 2 different videos. One video that underlines the climate impact of climate change in the country of each people. Okay, so those videos, they are like it means that there are like 20 different videos, one per country, and they underline like the possible consequences of climate change. For instance, like in some countries, like what would be the effect in terms of flooding or stuff like that, or for instance, in countries like Poland or Canada, we also underline like positive economic aspect of climate change. And so here, yes, we are more trying to focus on the impact of climate change. There is a second video which focuses on 3 different policies that will be our 3 main policies that we want to explore a bit deeper than the other in the survey. So first is the ban on combustion engine car. Okay, so more like a standard. Third, the second one is more pricing with the carbon tax to the cash transfer. And the third policy is the green infrastructure program with the green investment in green infrastructure. And so in the policy, what we do is like we paint all the policy words, what will be the effect, like for instance, for the carbon tax, how much revenue people could get if we were transfer, how much the price of oil will go up. Okay, so those are the 2 videos, and then in the last group we have people who are during this group see both videos. Okay, and so those are like our treatment that we have. Okay. And so what we want to do first is like to understand like what are the different mechanisms that explain the support for climate action. And so to do that, like when you think of climate policy, you can often think of different bundles. Okay, so like a carbon tax, it could depend like how you use the revenue. For a green investment program, it would depend like what you use to fund the program. And so you have a lot of different policies that you cannot cover in one survey where there will be too many combinations. Okay, and so to tackle this issue, what we do is like we first, as I was saying, provide evidence in some major policies. So one investment, one pricing, and one standard policy. And then for those policies, we identify different possible use of revenues or revenues, for instance, or how you could spend the money or from the carbon tax. And we then try to analyze the fundamental factors that are shaping the support of those policies. So here what we have is like in this graph, what we do is like on the column we have different effects of each policy. Okay, and so you have 3 big groups of rows, one for each one for each policy, the government program, carbon tax, and the ban on combustion engine cars. Okay, and so here what I show you is like the share of people that agree with each statement by a group of people. So here, for instance, you have like 76% of people in African country that think that the green infrastructure program will reduce air pollution. Okay. So what we see is that first, like people really acknowledge the environmental benefits of climate policy. Okay. So whether it is for the green infrastructure program, or even for carbon tax, or you have like about 30% of people in African country that think that it will reduce air pollution, or the ban on combustion engine car, you see that people agree that those policies will be effective to tackle climate change. Okay, but the thing is, like people, like a few people think they will have a positive effect on the economy, or that will be a cost that we have affecting climate change. So on one hand, you have people that think that climate policy would be efficient to tackle climate change. On the other hand, they also think there will be like a negative economic effect of those policies. And what you see also is that for people, so those policies are being regressive. Okay, so they think that those policies will affect most negatively people living in rural areas, low-income earners, or even the middle class. Okay, this is less of the case for like high-income earners, for instance. And so you have this effect that people perceive those climate policies as being regressive. one other aspect that matters a lot is like self-interest. And so when you have people, whether they think their own household will financial gain from those climate policy, like you have around like less than 25% of people that think so. And so you have those three main characteristics that I was mentioning. So first, people, those are the three main beliefs that people have about policy that is wrong. Okay. So first, they think that policy will be effective to reduce climate change, but they have like redistributed concern about like what would be the effect on other category of people and specific categories of people. And then they also care about like whether or not the policy will financially impact their household. Okay, and so you can show that also like when you do some regression of the different causes. But I think this is like one of the main takeaway you should have here. And like those are like the main specific concerns that explain the support for climate action. For instance, knowledge is not really an important factor. Like where you look at whether people know a lot about what are like the effect of climate change, what would be like the specific aspect of climate change. It doesn't matter a lot because as we saw, like people have really like usually agree, there is like broadly agreement that climate change is like it's not really like the knowledge about climate change that matter, but more like the distributive impact and the effectiveness. And so here, what we can look at is like digging into more specific policies. So here, what we have, like each column represents like different countries. Now, in each row, we have a list of different policies. And so, for instance, we have that for Australia, you have like 49% of people that support the green infrastructure program. And so here, this big matrix is just like the share of support for each policy across the country. What we see is that you have strong support for policies that are like invested. Okay, so you have a lot of support for subsidy to look at our technologies or to fund clean energy in developing countries. On the other hand, like policies such as like pricing policies such as tax on fossil fuel, you have a really low support. So at first, it seems that people like are really in favor of a policy where you spend money, but they don't like they oppose the policy where you take money away from it. But the thing is here, what we look like the support of different versions of carbon tax where we can use the revenue for different purposes. Okay, so what we do, like we say, okay, would you support carbon tax where we use the revenue from the carbon tax to fund environmental infrastructures or to subsidize low carbon technologies? And so we see that if you channel the money from the carbon tax to specific use that are related to the environment, you can have like a majority of support. Like for instance, in high-income country, you have like that the tax on fossil fuel was only supported by 36% of people. But like if you use the money to fund environmental infrastructure, support goes up to 63%. Okay. Then what we can do is like look at the characteristic of people that are supporting an opposing climate policy. And so broadly, what matters like it's your vote for like the left party will determine a lot if you're supporting or opposing climate policy. Your level of education also matters, but the thing is like all the socio-economic characteristics they will only explain a small share of the variance in the support. And so what explains the most the variance in the support for the climate policies is really those three main beliefs I mentioned before: effectiveness, redistribution, and self-interest. Okay, for the sake of time, I won't mention the empirical effect, but just to mention this briefly, what we use, like when we look at the impact of the videos on the support of the climate policy, we see that relative to what I mentioned before, like the videos that mention the climate policy is the one that moves the most the support to climate policy. So the video where you mentioned the impact of climate change on people when you explain what climate change does, it does not really move as much the support than when you explain exactly how climate policies work and what could be the distributive impact of climate policy. And so just to conclude briefly, so you see that all around the world there is a broad majority of people that agree that climate change should be tackled. Okay, and so what really matters for explaining the support of climate change is a bit some socioeconomic factors such as education, political orientation, but what really matters is more of the view that these people have on those policies. And so, because you have this broad support for climate change, there's a lot of people acknowledge the effect of climate change, like the concern of knowledge about climate change process does not really matter for support. It's really like those three beliefs about effectiveness, inequality, and self-interest. The next thing out of time. Wait. So if you have questions,